Hi guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be doing my TBR jar for June. Look, my TBR jar did not go as planned in May, at all. Really not at all. I barely read anything in May, which was actually quite disappointing. I have worked it out, guys, that basically I don't actually have anywhere near as much time as I thought I had to read. I don't know what possessed me at the beginning of the year to believe that whilst I'm working basically full-time and studying full-time that I would have enough time to do enough reading to hit the highest reading goal I have ever set myself, when this is the year I have never been busier. So, claps to me for being a complete idiot and not thinking about that. So that means that I have actually only read, at this point when I'm filming, which is the 21st of May, I've only read one of the books that I picked out for this month, which is really disappointing. So we're going to move on with June. So the way that my life is working is that I am going to try and pull back on a few things. The first semester for university ends in a couple weeks time, in about a week from when this video is going up. Also, it's my birthday today when this is going up, so happy birthday to me. But because university is ending, I'm going to have a whole bunch more time, which means I'm only going to be working, I'm not going to be studying for about a couple of months. So instead of really paring my TBR jar picks down, which is what I would be doing, I'm going to keep them reasonably similar because I should have a bit more time for reading than I do now, given that university won't be in the factor. Going forwards, however, I may or may not be working less going into second semester, so my TBR jars may drop off a little bit and get a bit smaller for the second half of the year, but for the most part, I'm still really enjoying doing them. I really like how random they are. I really like kind of forcing myself to read some books that I've been putting off because I've read some really great ones that have surprised me. It worked so well in April and I would love to have that kind of success again. So the only book that I read out of all the ones I picked last month was Bridget Jones's Diary, and I also did not enjoy it. It's been one of my least favourite reads for the whole year, which I found really surprising because it's Bridget Jones's Diary and I love the movie. Everybody loves the movie, but I just severely disliked the book, so I have to admit it just really hindered my reading progress for May. So we're just gonna let May go and I am going to assess how many items out of my jars I should be picking per month going forwards, because I was thinking it would be a blanket rule that I would pick 3 or however many and be able to apply it to every month, but I think I actually need to do a little bit more forward thinking and plan it per month. So, June. June for me is going to be half really busy and half not busy. For the first 2 weeks of June, I am finishing off assessments and final assignments for the first semester of university. Classes stop in a week's time, but assessments stop in 2 weeks' time for me. That means that the second half of June should be easygoing, and I'm anticipating I'll get most of my reading done then. I don't think I'll even look at a book in the first 2 weeks necessarily, depending on how assessments go. So I'm going to be slightly ambitious and peg all my hopes that in the last 2 weeks I'm going to have such a beautiful time of not having to study that I'm going to do lots of reading. I confess that right now I've been struggling with the TBR that I pulled out as well because it was so historical fiction dominant for May that I'm really hoping I pull out some fantasy books because that is all I want to read. So where I'm currently sitting with things as per this video, I have actually detoured from the TBR jar. Because I didn't like Bridget Jones's Diary and because I've been too busy in May, I thought no, let's just let that one go and enjoy reading what we want to read. So in May I had rolled on books that I didn't get to in April. I don't think I'm going to do that this month. I think I'm just gonna pick them afresh and just give myself a clean slate to start with because, we're going to dive right in. I'm going to start with my arcs and then I'm going to pick for my normal TBR. This is actually looking reasonably empty, which is satisfying. I feel like I need to get a smaller vessel to pick this from, but I can't find one / think of a good one, so we're just going to keep rolling with the vase that is way too big for it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to pick 2 arcs for this month coming out of this jar. I think that's probably a nice reasonable amount seeing as I'm not getting through the 3 regardless. So let's just crack on into it. Oh, this is an interesting one. So I picked out The Age of Light. So The Age of Light looks like this. It is published by Pan Macmillan. It came out I think a year or 2 ago and it is actually published by the imprint Picador and it is historical fiction, so no surprises there. This one is set in, I think it is actually set in Paris. It follows a girl in 1929 when she's just left behind a modelling career for Vogue, which was in New York. So she is arriving in Paris. Now, she meets an artist here and she becomes sort of his muse and his protege. So it looks like we're going to be exploring a different sort of story in this book. I really like the atmosphere, or the sound of the atmosphere of this book, because we're talking about cabaret, we're talking about smoking in dark rooms, and just that real sort of 1920s vibe in Paris. And I always read stuff about America and the USA in 1920s, so it's really exciting to actually have a book that's going to be set in Paris and have a look at all of the extremely fashionable and awesome things that were happening then. Now, I have a feeling this may actually be based on a real person, but I'm not 100% sure, and it doesn't sort of explicitly say anywhere. This isn't too long. It is about 350 pages long, and I'm anticipating this will be really interesting to read. I'm hoping it's not too dry. So that is my first pick for ARCs for June. Moving on to round 2. Nope, not a fantasy. I picked out The Clergyman's Wife. So I think I'm actually doomed to just never read fantasy again. To be fair, the majority of all my arcs are historical fiction or along that line, but gosh darn. But that's okay, because I'm actually really excited to read The Clergyman's Wife, which is by Molly Greeley, and this came out about midway last year, so it's not been out too long. This is published by Allen & Unwin, so thank you very much for sending me this. I absolutely love the cover of this book. There is something so intensely satisfying. I think it might actually be the contrast in the soft colours, and I don't know, the hair is so, everything about this is soft and I love it. Now this is sort of like a Pride and Prejudice retelling, which is why I'm not as upset as I could be that this is historical fiction. This is looking at Pride and Prejudice from Charlotte Collins' perspective. So if you remember the storyline from Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth's good friend Charlotte ends up marrying Mr. Collins, and she's the one that has that wonderful quote about being a spinster, and it's super relatable to anybody in their 20s in the 21st century. It's fine. So this is all looking about that. It's looking about her life and how things work for her, and I guess her internal thoughts on her situation. But yeah, this is basically just a story about her anxious escape from spinsterhood, and I'm quite excited. This is also quite a short book. This isn't even 300 pages, so I'm hoping that this will be quite a good one to read, and I will confess that I will be quite disappointed if I don't love this, so no pressure. Okay, for my main TBR, I'm going to pick out 3 books. We are hoping and aiming that I will read 7 books in total, at least in June, so that leaves me a little bit of wiggle room for some audiobooks as well as some other books to read, so we're gonna pick 3. I still can't get over the fact that all like 250 of my books are in this jar. It just doesn't seem full enough. Oh, that's really exciting. I am very pleased about this. This is Homegoing, which was actually a book that I got for Christmas last year. So Homegoing is a beautiful orange book, and it is about slavery in the Americas, and it's looking at 2 sisters who had 2 very different experiences. This was given to me by my sister for Christmas, and I have been wanting to read this for a really long time. When this was first released, I heard loads of good things about this, so I have quite high expectations. So we have one sister who is sold into slavery and one who becomes a slave trader's wife. So they're very different stories there, and I'm really excited to look at how it's written and what kind of message this book is going to give out and what sort of information it might shed light on, because I confess that being Australian rather than American, this is not a topic of history that I have gone over in any sort of huge amount of detail. I know the basics, but I don't know a massive amount of what slavery looks like in the USA when it was happening. So I'm really excited for this. I'm really excited for this. That was a great pick. I'm thoroughly pleased with that. Oh, I just pulled out an Agatha Christie. This is going so much better than it did for May. So I have pulled out The Moving Finger. As far as I'm concerned, you can't really go too far wrong with an Agatha Christie. However, finding my copy of this could be interesting. This is one time when I'm really appreciating the TBR jar, because I don't usually actively pick out Agatha Christie books. So this is The Moving Finger. I collect these editions in the short trade paperback versions, but with her signature as the author's title font, which I love. So I always look for these secondhand book fairs. I very rarely buy them firsthand, but when I'm going through secondhand stalls, there's almost always a copy of one of these somewhere. I just think they're such great stories, and I really want to own the complete collection one day. I have not read an Agatha Christie that I haven't enjoyed, and I think potentially the last one I read was And Then There Were None. I can't remember if I read another one in between. So I'm really excited for this one. This is obviously a murder mystery if you don't know who Agatha Christie is. This one follows a case of an outbreak of anonymous hate mail that is happening, so I'm very excited about that. So this is not Poirot, this is actually in the Marple series of them, so that'll be super easy to read. I think I am pulling out quite the epic TBR. Alright, moving on to the third and final book. Please let it be good. What a great month June is gonna be. I'm so excited. I just pulled out Ready Player One. This is one of these books that has just been on my TBR for so long, but I have never picked it up, and I watched the movie, and I think I'm really glad that I watched the movie first because no one else seemed to like it, but I really enjoyed it. I suspect many of you are familiar with the Ready Player One story. It is a sci-fi written by Ernest Cline. I feel like it's almost quite old now, and we've got the whole sort of virtual reality versus reality. Wow, the font is tiny in this edition. Can you see how small that is? I know that I'm going to enjoy this, however I'm not going to enjoy reading how tiny that font is, so that's fine, that's fine. I know that that's going to be a good read. I haven't picked out a book that I'm scared is going to be heavy reading, so that's exciting. So that brings me to the end of the video. These are all of the books that I'm going to be attempting to read in June. The game plan is still to get most of this reading done in the second half of the month once university is finished, so fingers crossed it is more successful than May was, and I regret picking out so many books in May because in hindsight that was never going to work. So let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or which one you're most excited to hear my thoughts on, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.